Good
This
night.
conference will now be recorded.
Great. If I could ask you all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Thank you very much. Someone said play ball after that. Okay, so Darlene, if you would please do the roll call, establish a quorum, and then do the homeowner statement, please.
Barbara,
Here,
Barbara Fugelberg,
here,
Ron Woodward,
Present.
Marilyn Sorensen,
here,
Becca Paulson, Marie Beschen,
here,
Steve Deal, Roberta Ernst.
here.
Thank you. Homeowner statement period. In person, speaker may speak for no more than 2 minutes. If attending virtually, please mute your audio. Please use the chat option for your questions. Comments should be addressed to concerns of the motion before the board takes formal action on an item under formal discussion on the table. Negative comments directed at residents, employees of the association, or board of directors will not be allowed.
Thank you. First thing on the agenda is the approval of meeting minutes. Can I get a motion, please?
Minutes from the December 8th, 22 board meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. So are there any comments or questions from any member of the board regarding the minutes? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from the residents regarding the minutes? Seeing none, I'll call for the motion. The motion is to approve the minutes from the December 8th, 2022 Board of Directors meetings. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes. Perfect. The next thing on the agenda is the financial report, and we'll be asking Don Oberg, our accountant, to provide us a financial update.
As of November 30th, the operating cash balance was $1,138,943. The reserve was $3,793,830. Activities, 264,593. The food was 10,384. The clubs, 140,298. And the asset improvement was 835,773.
Thank you. Any questions from members of the board? Any questions from any of the audience? Sue? So Sue Cousins asked what food is. That's the amount that's still in the checking account related to the chuck wagon. So hopefully it's staying the same. Okay. So the next thing on the, no, so the next thing on the agenda is to approve the November 22 financial reports. Can I get a motion?
I move to accept the November 2022 financials.
So we have a second on that. So are there any questions about the November 2022 financials from any member of the board? Seeing none, are there any questions from the audience regarding the financials for number 2022? Seeing none, we'll call for the motion. All in favor of approving the financials of November 2022, please raise your hand. No one's opposed, passed unanimously. Motion passes. Thank you. The next thing are the committee reports. The Budget Committee, Bill Powell is the chairperson of. We've got the first thing is to an approval regarding our investments. So can I get a motion regarding that?
I move to approve to invest 280,000 of 380,000 cash available in our reserve fund in 30-day treasury bonds to be renewed monthly.
Can I get a second? So Becca, would you give us some background on this?
Sure. Last month, we transferred approximately 310,000 from excess operating funds into the reserve fund. Now we would like to take 210,000 of that plus $70,000 worth of interest that we have earned this year in the reserve and reinvest it in 30-day treasury bonds. 30-day being, we have some expenditures coming up in reserve. We want to make sure we have enough cash in there, and we will continue every 30 days as long as the cash is available.
And I see in your note here that the interest rates are ranging from 4.3% to 4.5%.
Correct.
Good. Any questions from any member of the board regarding this motion? Bill Powell, do you have any comments on this motion? Okay. Any questions from the residents? Seeing none. Oh, there's Mike. Mike, are you monitoring the chat? Okay, is there anything on the chat related? Okay. So again, since this is money, actual money, I will ask for a roll call vote on this.
Ron Woodward,
Yes.
Becca Paulson,
Yes.
Marie Beschen,
Yes.
Marilyn Sorensen,
Yes.
Steve Deal,
Yes.
Roberta Ernst,
Yes.
and Barbara Fugelberg.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This, between Becca and the people who have investment background on the budget committee, they're really doing a nice job of making sure our investments are being done wisely. The next thing on the agenda is a motion regarding increasing our reserve contribution. Can I get a motion related to that?
I move to approve an increase in the reserve contribution from 20% to 25% for the remaining 5 months of the fiscal year.
Get second?
Second.
So the background on this is if those of you who have attended the budget committee and Becca's excellent treasurer work on that is that we're really being pushed to do two things: minimize the number of excess equity we have at the end of the year, and secondly, increase our contribution to our reserves since they are in trouble. So between the three of us, we've done some calculations, and if we do that for the remaining portion of this year, we could potentially increase our reserve contribution by between $90,000 and $100,000. So are there any questions from any member of the board? Any questions from the residents? Please stand and someone will give you a microphone and your name and lot number, please. You have a nice, strong voice, but.
Okay, Greg at 1253. You said that the reserve is in trouble. And so what does that mean exactly?
Becca, would you like to respond?
Sure. What that means is, according to Associated Reserves, a company that we have used to determine our funding needs for buildings, roads, our fixed assets here, is very much underfunded. We're at just below 40%. And according to national HOA statistics, this is number two. That's number one. Number two is, according to statistics on healthy HOAs, our reserve contribution should be at least 30%. We've been 20% for as long as I know about. And so we are gradually trying to increase that, to increase our reserves and to bring it up to where it should be.
So you said that the reserve is at 40% positive, correct?
The amount of money we have to be fully funded, we are at 40% of that fully funded number.
And so what is fully funded?
100%.
100%,
So it's not
correct.
50%, it's 100%.
Yes,
And we're at 40%.
correct.
All right, thank you.
And Associated Reserves recommends that healthy be around 70%.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you for your question, sir.
Vicky, 54. Are we talking 40% and 100% of what?
Of the amount of money that is on our reserve fund.
So the cost to replace and repair all of our buildings is in the millions of dollars, and saying how much we actually have in our account in order to do that. So we want that to be around 70%.
Don, could you give her the number where we are right now, please?
So to be fully, excuse me. Sorry. Okay, so based on the May 1st, 2022 reserve study, to be fully funded is 7,673,832. As of November 30th, 22, we're at 3,793,830.
Which is approximately, I think, 40%, right? Is it just under 40, I think? Right around
Definitely
there?
under 50.
Okay.
Any other questions from any of the residents? Yes, Michael.
Isn't it true that during the past few years, we did a plan that showed the reserves at a low figure because of roofs and roads, and that after that big expenditure, we would start to climb the reserves back up to a decent amount? So I kind of get a bad feeling that saying our reserves are in trouble when we look at actually it was a 10-year plan that we did that showed the reserves coming out of a low percentage in the next couple of years and start building.
I do believe when that study was done, our costs were much lower than they are today. The costs for the roads and the costs for the roofs were much higher than anticipated.
Well, I think the roads, if you look at roads and if you look at what we did last year, we did more than we were supposed to. So that drove the costs up. Two, asphalt prices went up about 15-20%. So if you do the contracts as soon as we get them, we can get it done. But I think the contracts were lacking last year and getting signed before the price went up.
Thank you, Mike. You bring up a good point. You've had history on the board and on that committee. So you're correct in the statement in that we believe that once we get all the roads completed, which is 1 or 2 years, 2 years time, that's going to make significantly less dollars that we need to spend every year for that. At the same token, we know that the costs of the roofs are significantly higher than they've been, and that's something that we need to do. But I do want to acknowledge that you're absolutely correct, that once those projects are done, then we're going to be having more money available to go into the reserves and cover it. The concern now is that what we don't want to happen is to have excess equity occurring when we're only contributing 20% to the reserves on a monthly basis, when we have the capacity at our current association dues to do at least 25% for this current year, with the hope that maybe if we get up to 30% in the future, that we're going to be much better served and not to have any capital improvement assessments. So this action is something to help minimize, to put our total dollars that are coming in into the appropriate space. And one of those is that we need to put more money in reserves.
Barbara. Bill Powell, Chairman of the Budget Committee. This motion is very much in line with where we're going. Budget is working diligently right now to adjust the operating budget to allow a 25% number for the following years to get more in line to where we're at, to keep up with the increased costs of construction and roads and things like that. So we've been looking at the financials, and this is very much in line to do it. And we don't want to have a surplus every year, so this is a better place for it. But it looks very good for next year doing it. This will not affect any homeowner numbers at all because it's all coming out of the current due level. So just because we're raising it, it means the operating has been able to reduce their costs by some.
Thank you, Bill. That's a good reference.
And I guess I should make one quick other comment. With a number of 3.7 million in reserves is not a bad number. I mean, just think how much damage would have to happen that's not insured, because insurance would take care of it, before you'd start to deplete your reserves. So we knew it was going to go down, but it's still nowhere near a crisis at all. If we were down under a million, we'd be panicking. But 3.7 is still a pretty healthy money in the pot. And the investment committee has taken very aggressive moves to invest that money at higher interest rates now. And so it was mentioned, I think 70,000 a minute ago, and that number 2 years ago was 10. So the investment committee is extremely active. Never were they invested in 30-day things. What could we do for a year? They're now looking at it, twice a month.
Thank you, Bill. Any other questions for any member of the audience, the residents? So again, since the dollar amount, I will ask for a roll call vote, please.
Ron Woodward,
Yes.
Becca Paulson,
Yes.
Marie Beschen,
Yes.
Marilyn Sorensen,
Yes.
Steve Deal,
Yes.
Roberta Ernst,
Yes.
and Barbara Fugelberg.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. The next thing on the agenda is the Communications Committee. And I see that we have a motion for adding another member.
Yes, temporary that it may be, in lieu of what's going on. I move that we approve Cindy Evans for the Communications Committee.
Second.
Second. Any questions or comments from a member of the board regarding Cindy Evans joining the Communications Committee? Anything from the audience? All in favor of approving Cindy Evans to be a member of the Communications Committee, please raise your hand. Thank you. Motion passes. Next thing on the agenda is from the DRC Committee and involves an appeal regarding lots 657. Marilyn?
I move to approve the appeal from lot 657 for installation of a privacy panel fence. This
Second.
motion, we need a second, I'm sorry.
Second.
This motion has been to the DRC committee, this request twice, and it was denied based on the fact that we didn't feel it met the intent of our rules, although technically they do meet the structural rules. The purpose of the HOA, I mean, one of the things that the HOA does, and if you look at all of our rules, many of them allow for a certain degree of monitoring of our lots because of storage issues, and we have such restrictions on it as outdoor appliances, etc. So when we've asked that you put privacy panels or privacy parts, we always have asked that you leave some kind of opening, and that does allow for some monitoring of the lot to maintain the consistency throughout the park of what people are putting on the lots. That's just part of the HOA criteria for privacy. In this situation, the gates would actually go across the RV lot, the drive area, and would lock, so that actually there is no opening on that side. The opening for this side, this enclosure, is at the back of the lot. It is a 4-foot wide opening, so it does meet the requirement to have an opening.
So what you're saying then is the concern is that it appeared to be a full enclosure in the front. Okay. And I see from their original thing to the DRC that they're asking these privacy panels to be 6 feet tall in front. The privacy panels along the side and the back are currently
6 feet regulation.
so a privacy panel can be 6 feet, but the privacy panel was not intended to be in the front of the lot.
I think that that's essentially the question. Yes, the privacy panels in the front of the RV port.
So what are the comments or questions do we have from members of the board? Ron?
I would like to ask for a show of hands, how many people have actually gone and looked at this lot?
I have.
The diagram that we received with this appeal does not adequately give a picture of this lot. and you need to look at it in person in order to understand what is being requested. I understand what's being requested. I understand why it's being requested. I fully concur with Marilyn's comment that it meets the letter of the law, but it does not meet the intent of the rule. If you look at this lot from the street with the diagram that we have, that entire right side is empty. There is nothing on that right side, and that easement is only a 3-foot setback from the property line, which means that this patio is only 6 feet from the neighbor's driveway, and they want privacy on that side. There's a house behind them. To me, the 4-foot opening in the back does not matter and does not help them meet the intent of not having a full enclosure. What troubles me is the incomplete enclosure of the front. And if they state that they are going to keep the gates open so that it gives the impression of a open lot, then that destroys the argument that they're using it to cover something that they have stored on their patio. In front of that shed is their patio with a dining room table. So what it would allow them to do is increase or triple their patio size. But still, the fact that other people have done it before with previous boards or with previous DRCs does not convince me that we should allow this variance in this case. I understand, again, as I said, what they're trying to do is get more privacy. I've discussed it with people. There's not an issue recently that's come to me more frequently than this issue of full enclosures. And I would go as far as to say that if you're looking for total privacy on your lot, you should probably look for Section 8 or Traditions or Sun City Grand, where they do that sort of thing. What attracts people to Happy Trails in many cases is the openness of our lifestyle. And so I am not opposed to arguing in favor of allowing this variance.
Roberta, you had a question? or
Yes, ma'am.
comment?
Yeah, so I struggle when we use the terminology full enclosure, when we are not taking this from the awning all the way down to the ground. When you are looking at what you said, Mike, a 6-foot panel. So that means there's openness above, and if they were to raise it a foot, maybe there's openness below. So to me, that's not a full enclosure, and as you know, words are important. If the panels are what we would call vertical type slots, where you can see through, again, it's not fully enclosed, you have visibility into the RV port or extended patio. I'm not really opposed to it. I have drove around and we did receive some pictures of some other lots that have 3-foot, 3.5-foot, I call them gates. That's probably not the right terminology, that go completely around the lot, encompassing the RV and to the back, leaving a little section between them and their neighbors next door. So if it was something that's slotted that they can see through, to me, that's not a full enclosure. You see where I'm going with that? So I'm just asking, it is an enclosure, they're looking for privacy, and I would call them privacy panels, but I just don't think we should be saying they're getting a full enclosed area.
I think that for those people who've been here for a long time, and I'm looking at a lot of former board members out there and former DRC folks, we do have a community full of very creative people. And of the pictures that I see, and I've driven around myself, of the pictures that were provided to us as examples of why we should approve this, there's really only one that I see is all the rest of them we would have approved because they're short panels, they can be moved and all that, and it doesn't provide a complete enclosure. In fact, most of these do not have a complete enclosure. There is one that stands out as something that the request we may have seen or DRC may have seen said one thing, but then holy smokes, what ended up is not what we had intended ever to be approved because of the creativity of the folks out there. And so just because there's this one example that looks fully enclosed, that was not the intent of the DRC committee. So what I grapple with is the whole privacy issue, and then we have standards regarding pet fences or pet pens, which are only 36 inches that they can be. Because of how creative we all can be, including myself, though I try not to break the rules, is that the, we could have things occurring back there that were not intended, a lot of animals running loose and that kind of stuff, and they're not meeting the intent of the pet pen. I'm confident that's not the case of this couple here. But the fact that this one over here on the top left has, that is not what the intent was. And so my fear is, how would this end up? I know that lot. And I question that one too. I know that that's a storage area. It's not an entire panel. So. Okay. Any other questions, comments from any member of the board?
I was going to ask, is the
Right,
owner
I
here?
would-
Can they explain what kind of gate or fence this is?
What would have been helpful is if we'd actually had a picture of the product that you were planning, that you were putting in.
Well, if you look at the one that you said,
Could you give us your name, please?
so I'm Rick Urton. My wife, Patty, and I, we own lot 657.
Thank you.
And if you look at the one picture in there where it has the storage lot, the straight panels, they're not scalloped. That's essentially what we want to do at a 6-foot level. So we're not,
At the very bottom right-hand one that's brown.
yeah. So I don't believe that we're doing anything that really isn't already being done. As far as if you look at people, what they're doing with enclosures, they're using screens, they're using panels, the sunshades, pulling them down in front of the RV port accomplishes the same thing that we're trying to do with our gates. So I don't buy the argument that we're doing something that is out of the ordinary.
Thank you. So how, and when did you purchase in Happy Trails?
We own 2 lots.
Okay, good.
So we own 818, which we bought in 2012, which we fixed up. And then we just bought 657 last year.
Any other questions, comments from any residents? We got a couple out there. Can someone get them microphones? Brett?
Donna Wisdom, 379. Okay. We wanted to put a 6-foot or even a 5-foot fence in the front to close off. Well, and we were told no. Basically, no. Sorry, no. You can be any more than 3 foot tall. So that's what we did. In all fairness, we went 3 foot all the way around our little patio. So I'm totally not going to be okay with, I mean, I'll tear mine down and put another 6-foot fence up. I swear I will. I mean, let's be fair all the way around. I'm sorry, honey. I really am, but I wish I could, but you know, I spent all my money on that stupid 3-foot fence. But I'm just saying, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. And that's, and I do agree that Happy Trails was based on openness and friendliness and being able to talk to your neighbors and all that. I don't mind you putting it up in the back, but in the front, I don't agree with that. So sorry.
And people have put them along the sides too, because neighbors looking into your door. So, sir, you had a question, comment? Mike?
Mike Rugland, 1130. The intent behind the rule was to allow openness in the resort and to allow the DRC compliance people to keep track of what is going on behind fences or privacy panels. If you allow privacy panels across the RV side of the lot, then you never know what's going on. And that's what the intent was, to leave it open so compliance could view that.
We have another question, the gentleman up front.
Will they still be able to move an RV in and out, or is it a permanent type fence with a small door?
It's my understanding that this is movable, correct? That the gates would open, right? It's one of the issues that occurred a number of years ago when we passed that people who had an RV lot could petition to get their RV removed so that they could live in their Arizona room and not have to live in the RV and be able to live there without an RV on the lot, is that they had to actually get approval to do that. And then when the house sold, the new owners had to get an approval with the DRC committee to do that. The intent behind that, and there was a subcommittee that was formed to look at the process for the assurance that people would not be extending a permanent structures in there, such as a permanent outdoor kitchen or another permanent building into that spot that had to remain an RV port. And from that the committee and the association really needs to be able to see that those things are not occurring back there. So when you purchased this home, did you complete the process to request to not have an RV in that spot and see the rules related to that?
When we bought the lot, RV was not required to be sitting there. So we never gave it a second thought.
Okay.
And then as far as being able to see into the back, if I put a gate across the front, how is that different than park models which have screened off the front of their patios? You can't see any more into theirs than you will with mine. So to me, it's not logical.
Park Model's not going to be building any more structures in the spot where the RV is.
No. Park Model, their patio, they've got screens all the way across. So if you're worried about being able to see into the patio to monitor it, the precedence to me has already been set.
Regarding the park model, how I see that different, and that's a very good question, sir. How I see that different is that park model is not an RV port. So the whole rules regarding preservation of the RV port is really what we're trying to preserve here. And it seems that probably we weren't clear when you purchased that property that the removal of the RV port related to the previous owner and not the new owner. So the new owner then would be required to actually apply to the DRC, fill out the paperwork saying, I don't want an RV on this lot, and then what you would agree to complying so that it remained an RV port.
All right. So that aside, getting back to the gate across the front, again, how is that different than other lots, other RV lots? They've got an awning, they've got panels across the front, and then a big heavy screen coming down.
The point is, at some point, we have to draw a line on what we're going to put up, and we don't have locked gates to this point across a drive. And so I feel that we're going to have to take a stand here because it absolutely stops us from the ability to monitor. Where some of these other situations, the screens are not always down. They're still very, very temporary. They're not locked to the public. They're just screens, and screens can go up and down, planters can go up and down, lattice work, you can see through. Certain types of fencing structures are such that you can really see right through them. So we have some degree of openness in all of those other situations. They're not available to a gate that is locked across the front. That's a very permanent fixture, sir.
No, because you still
As long as it's locked.
have the 1-inch spacing, which is required per the DRC guidelines. And again, I'm getting back to the fact that we are meeting the guidelines.
I think Mike had a comment. Did you, Mike?
I was just going to speak to the RV port home removal application. I think that still that vague area that we have is that vague area that we have is the non-permanent in the RV port. I mean, once the RV is removed, it says no permanent structures in that area. So I think that we have, we interpret that in different ways, of course, is what's not permanent. We have very frequent question in the DRC office as well as the committee is what's the definition of permanent? We go around and around with this frequently. So I think that's where we're seeing different interpretations of what's going on here. Is it permanent because it opens, or is it not permanent because it opens? We're saying that same direction.
It's kind of like the full enclosure. So I'm going to ask you, sir, would you be amenable? Because this is what I'm hearing on a compromise situation. Obviously, most of us don't seem to have a problem with the panels going around the side. Would you and your wife be amenable to a 3-foot gate in the front? And of course, you could add the shade if you needed the privacy in order to get this done. And then, of course, that would lead questions for the rest of the group.
I think I would have to discuss that with my wife. But I don't see where a 3-foot really buys us very much.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from the board? Excuse me, from the residents? I'll call for the motion then. The motion is that we approve the appeal for lot 657 for installation of a privacy panel fence. All in favor of approving this appeal, raise your hand. All in favor of not approving it, raise your hand. Motion is denied. What I would suggest is that you meet with Brad, and I'm assuming that Mike's got you up to speed on the whole RV port removal to go over those things.
Yep.
And talk about other things, other options that may be available to these residents. Okay, thank you. Next thing on the agenda is to approve a new member of DRC. Marilyn?
I'd like to move that we approve Terry McGee for the DRC committee. Terry lives here in the park and he's had 45 years of commercial property management.
I'll second that. Any comments, questions from any member of the board regarding this approval? Yes, we should have told them that they were supposed to do a skit with dance and music and all that. Next time we'll do that.
My comment is, this has to be the vaguest appointment application I've seen since I've been on the board. And second, my question is, what experience has he had in residential management?
Terry came to the board and he was interviewed by us and these questions were asked and he did answer them satisfactorily. I don't remember all the answers at this point. We've had him for a month or so, but he does a good job.
My final comment is, and I made this comment before, when things come before the board, please do us a favor and yourself a favor and provide us as much documentation as you can to help us make decisions. This application has nothing on it that helps me other than 45 years of commercial experience. And I would like to ask him a couple of questions. So that's my comment.
So just a correction, Marilyn, you said that it came before the board. It came before the DRC committee. Yeah, right. Okay. So any other questions, comments from the board members? Any residents? Motion on the table is to approve Terry McGee as a member of the DRC committee. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstain. Thank you. Motion passes. Next thing on the agenda is the golf course committee. Ron, you're the liaison to the golf course committee. So the first thing is, could you make the first motion, please?
I move that we approve the request from the golf course to remove the dirt and asphalt piles.
I'll second that.
These asphalt piles are, oh, here comes Lauren. He's my cohort. I'll let him explain it.
This is kind of a convoluted story, and to top that off, both A and B are the same issue. So there's only need for one motion. This has been going on for about a year now. At first, it was given to BG&M committee on that, and Mike Perry had gone out and gotten a bid for that a little over a year ago. And I believe he brought it to the board at that particular time. Bid, I believe, was $2,400.
No,
Much was it?
it was 12,000.
12,000. Okay, my mistake. Big difference. Then it was kind of turned over to me when it was, this golf course liaison position was developed, and I was appointed to that position. Went out and looked at those piles. There's probably about 5 or 6 piles of dirt and a couple piles of asphalt. He was requesting that we remove all of it, that we would do the work on that. Ron Woodward and I met with Jason. We were talked to him about the possibility of sharing the cost of that. He was not willing to do that, said he did not have money in the budget. We talked about where the piles had come from. Some of them was asphalt that came off of our first road project, I believe. And he had been asked if he would be interested in having that. And he said yes, as he was going to use that on the golf course. He also stated that one of the contractors that do work for residents had asked him if he could pile some dirt there, and he'd give it authorization for that. Had only covered a portion of the material that was there. Other stuff, have no idea where it came from. So what we had agreed to do is to bring it to the board per his request, that we pay for the entire removal of all of the dirt and the asphalt in that area.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from the board?
Additional comment, these piles of asphalt and dirt are on the north side of the storage area down by the driving range of the golf course, down
Yeah, by the
between the
south
driving
storage.
range and the ranch. And basically, after he said he allowed a contractor to dump over there, Lauren and I looked at each other and said, you got a problem, Jason. So that's my comment.
So as promised, we brought it, I'm bringing it to the board. The bid that we was already done over a year ago, I'm sure is not current any longer. It would have to be done all over again. I guess it ended up being higher than that.
My frustration is that the owner of the golf course has allowed, by his own admission, for outside contractors and other folks to dump stuff there. Why in the world are we responsible for it? Doesn't make any sense to me. That's be like throwing good money after bad. I don't think we need to do that.
I'm just the messenger.
Any other questions, comments from any board member? Marie?
Well, my experience too, when this first was brought up, I drove out there to take a peek at it myself and to take a look. And while I was there, I watched Jason's person bring some stuff and dump it there and took pictures. And so I agree with Steve. That's my frustration too. Why are we picking, he says he can't afford it. Neither can we.
Yeah, he said that there was some things that looked like flower pots, the dirt out flower pots that were put there. To me, they kind of looked like holes from moving the pin from one spot to another spot on the golf course.
So it's my
My
understanding.
opinion.
My understanding, when we signed the contract, whoever did our asphalting at that time, part of what we agreed to pay for, other than them bringing asphalt in, was them removing asphalt and disposing of it. So in my mind, we've already paid for the disposal of this asphalt.
The asphalt part, he had evidently met with whoever was doing the supervising of that particular asphalt project. I believe it was the first asphalt project in which I believe Brent was the supervisor over that at that particular time. I believe that's who the contact was with. There was no written documentation regarding that.
Well, it is on our property or his property? It's on his
It
property.
is on his property, clearly.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments from any of the residents? Got a couple, three here. Okay. Let's start with Jim. He hasn't been heard from yet. Go Pack, go.
They're gone.
Yes.
Jim Marion, lot 1125. I was a board member for several years, 8 or 10. And I tried to work with the golf course on various issues. And we got lip service, but nothing done.
Got Dawn and then Mike. Dawn.
Okay, I was under the understanding that the contractor that was allowed to put the stuff in there was the golf course allowed him to do that. You just said that, Jason said, yes, I want that asphalt for a project that he was going to do on the golf course. So he just became liable for that. I'm sorry, no, we should not be cleaning that up, and that contractor should be the one paying to clean that up if they wanted to do that. Just, I'm sure if everybody heard that Jason wanted that asphalt, am I correct?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay. Well, then you break it up. I'm sorry. He wanted the asphalt. He became responsible for that asphalt. So it's up to the golf course to clean it up if they want it cleaned up. It's not ours. And I, as a resident, do not want to pay to clean up the golf course. We can't even get him to trim the palm trees, let alone to deal with the asphalt. I mean, no, that's just ridiculous.
Thank you, Donna. Mike Ruglin, your hand was raised.
I remember this issue, and I've been involved in this issue for, I don't know, probably the last 7, 8 years. At some point in time, there's got to be a cooperation between the golf course and Happy Trails, or it continues to erode. And we make Jason mad because we don't do something, and we get mad because Jason don't do something, and so forth. So I'd be in favor of taking a look at it and see if we can get the price down on it and do some fence mending here in regards to our Jason Happy Trails problem.
Thank you, Michael. Marilyn, do you have a comment? They'll bring you the microphone.
It might been part of the fence if we would ask him to pay half and we pay half, because nobody's taking responsibility and it's been there for many years. And he might have at that time wanted to use it, found out he couldn't, and he's dumping the dirt himself. So half and half would be fair, because he hasn't been cooperative even when he was on our board. And people that have a lot on the golf course, many of them have been frustrated with him not taking care of his business adjacent to our property. But you're not gonna, you've got pistols on both sides of the fence. So let's take the fence down and make it right. If he doesn't agree to go in half, then let him have it.
Thank you. We'll send him after you, Marilyn. Sir, name and lot number again, please.
Greg at 1253. Has anybody looked at grading the existing piles and forming the soil where it sits and making it, to appear like landscape rather than trying to remove the whole thing?
He wants it removed so he can make a parking lot over there. And if he wants a parking lot over there, that's not our business to grade it for him. It's when he allows somebody to dump over there, he owns it. There's no reason for us to go and clean up his yard.
If he's planning on putting a parking lot over there, doesn't he have to have approval from the city in order to put a road in?
Yes?
And so does he have that approval?
No?
Well, not to
Well,
our knowledge. we
Then
don't.
it seems
It's
like
just,
a
it's
moot
just his
point.
word that he's going to put a parking lot in so far.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to call for the motion. The
We-
motion is to approve the, I'm sorry, Mike, you want to make a comment?
There was just a chat. Why would we pay anything?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
One chat from C&D family. Why would we pay anything?
Why pay anything? Okay, thank you. So the motion is to approve the request from the golf course to remove the dirt and asphalt piles. So this would be a dollar amount, trying to stay consistent. I'd like a roll call vote, please.
Ron Woodward,
No.
Becca Paulson,
No.
Marie Beschen,
No.
Marilyn Sorensen,
No.
Steve Deal,
Absolutely not.
Roberta Ernest,
No.
and Barbara Fugelberg.
No,
Thank you.
motion fails. Thank you. And thank you, Lauren and Ron, for all the work that you're doing with him. And I think we can start moving forward now. If he wants to give us another opportunity for a solution that's mutually beneficial, ball's in his court. So the next thing on the agenda is a request from the Pet Club. Is the gentleman who's made the request, I'm assuming, is he the president of the Pet Club?
Yes.
Point of order, Chairman.
Just a
President,
second.
Madam President, point of order.
Uh-huh.
Did you address the second issue on the golf course committee?
No, he said they're the identical one. They just got put in twice.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a request from the Pet Club regarding planting of trees. I'd like to hear the motion, please.
Request from the Pet Club to plant 3 red push pistachio trees on the interior of the pet park. Trees to be purchased by the pet park.
Pet Park or Pet Club?
I think that should be corrected to say pet club,
Pet Club,
not pet
okay.
park.
Then do I hear a second on that?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, so let's have some discussion on this. So Ron, can you speak to the justification for this?
First of all, I would like to say that this is probably the most complete request that we've had. It fully explains what the Pet Club is asking to do and gives us an example of the trees that they're proposing to buy and have planted by our landscaping crew. There's only one thing I would like to ask, and that is on page 39 at the top part there where it says that they're deciduous, means they're male or female trees. And I think in the interest of current wokeness, we probably can't ask which ones are male or female, but
The female are the prettier ones.
I do think, though, I have explored it further, and I've been advised that we should plant male trees. And I would ask the Pet Club president if he could explain why male trees over female trees. There is a good reason.
I can tell you.
She's a master
can tell you.
gardener. Marie.
You need, if you want pistachios, you need male and female. If you only have one, just like humans, you're not going to have pistachio nuts.
Okay, let's get back to. So the So currently there are no trees within the confines of the pet park, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so there's two motions that we have, one for the inside of the pet park and then some from the outside. And the purpose of this for planting the trees, is it so that my dog has some way to cock his leg?
Well, that'll happen. The purpose of this is in the summer in 115-degree heat, these animals have nowhere to hide. So they're out there in that green area in full sun 100% of the time while they're in the park. So the animal can't be in the park for that long unless you're, running a garden hose over them. So what this is going to do is, as the trees grow in, give them a shady area, the animals will be able to, lay down under the tree in the shady areas.
So
Plus us.
the purpose is shade.
Correct.
So what other options did you look at for shade other than this?
I didn't.
Okay,
Can we have a cost? Do we have a cost on the trees? Did I miss them?
Well, the first one is that they are going to pay for it.
Oh, I get that, but I'd still like to know what the cost of the trees
What
are.
the
I'm
cost
just
of the
curious.
trees are.
The trees are about $135 each.
The other question I have is, it said they were deciduous. So I live in the Pacific Northwest. I have a lot of deciduous trees. I got a lot of raking and blowing that I hire someone to do. We would be then asking our landscaping crew to be maintaining that with these?
Correct. I don't think it's going to be that difficult. When they mow the lawn, they're just going to mow up the leaves.
I was gonna
It'll be very similar to what they're doing now.
The leaves are small, correct?
Yeah, the leaves are about 2 inches long, half an inch wide.
And a lawnmower could pick them up easily.
Easily.
Still need to be swept off the concrete that's in there. Were there other, has anyone, Ron, you've been involved in the pet club. I see, as soon as the board's done, then we'll bring it to the residents. Any other options that they have talked about for shade? So you've talked about it, shade for the dogs, and then also shade for the humans.
We haven't addressed previously any options for shade inside the park for the animals. And I think that we need to address that. And I know that as we've addressed possibilities of shade for the people when it's 115 or 117 degrees out there, we've talked about louvers, we've talked about possible umbrellas, we've talked about sails and all of those sorts of things. And I think that the tree option, while it won't work immediately to give us a great deal of shade, certainly builds for the future. The only caution about these trees is that if you plant them in clay soil, which we have a lot of here, we have to make sure that our landscaping people prepare the holes so that the water drains, so that if they are being watered, the water is not getting stagnant in the root and will kill the trees rather than nourish them. But these particular trees, and what I'm reading, do not require much water, and they're very survivable in hot weather conditions and would add some color and I think some accent to the park in that area that would look really nice. In addition, there's a lot of other things that the Pet Club has planned to spruce up that area up there.
Marie?
I think you couldn't have picked a better tree, in all honesty. And they're slow growing though. So at this $135 price, how tall a tree is that? Oh, it's 6 feet. So you're starting off pretty good size. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Now I don't have a pet, so I've not been over to the pet park. I'm assuming that's grass that's over there. So the grass is being watered on a regular basis already, and that's probably enough water that's going to supply to those trees. My feeling is that as a shade structure, I think it's a really good idea. And any built shade structure, if we did umbrellas, if we did awning type things, you've got a wind challenge that's going to knock those things around where the tree wouldn't. If you do a wooden structure, then you've got maintenance on the wooden structure and you wouldn't have that type of maintenance on the tree. I personally think the tree is a really good idea. It's a beautiful tree. I know what kind of tree you're talking about. It brings beautiful color in the autumn and it has nice green leaves in the springtime. So I think as a tree, whoever did their homework did a good job. This is a really lovely tree and it will give nice shade. And maybe perhaps in the future, the club will look at putting a bench or something underneath some of these trees for the humans to be under as well. That's my 2 cents.
How long do people stay up in the pet park? I mean, I've had 10 dogs and, well, most of them hated it. So what's the standard time that someone stays there? You see, that's really, it's more of a social issue here and us looking at how we want the sociability, that's the word, of the community and is the pet park. But that's a minor point. That's a bigger issue that we have.
I call a question, please.
Well, we haven't opened it up to the residents yet. So questions from the residents, and Bill has a question.
Bill Powell, lot 440, and Budget Chair. Both Budget and BGM are looking at possibilities of water restrictions in the near future. So you brought up some things on water, but if we add more water, there will be other things that will have to be cut, like washing driveways, et cetera.
What I understand is that this will not add to any watering, that it'll be what's currently in there. Now, but you're correct in that the potential may be that I'm talking off the top of my head. I'm not saying anything that has even been discussed before. So don't go out of this room saying, well, Barb said. Some places are getting rid of all of their turf. And depending upon what we find out about water restrictions, we may be removing some turf in the area and thus some water fountains. So, okay, all right. Donna has a question, comment? Oh, I'm sorry, Lauren.
Yeah, Lauren Hanson, lot 556. Can I ask where these trees would be placed inside?
The trees will be planted about 10 feet away from the sidewalk. The trees will be planted about 10 feet from the sidewalk on the crest at the top of the park.
Okay.
The park is very wet and there's a lot of water in it when they water and it runs downhill. So the safest place for the tree is at the absolute top of the park.
Okay. First off, I'm a pet owner and I fully support the idea, but we have to be aware of an agreement that we made at the time that we put the pet exercise area out there. I was the president of the club at that particular time, was pretty well involved. And the amphitheater area was used once a year by Christian Fellowship for Easter sunrise services. So we had to make that area usable as an amphitheater. So the fence that's across the front is actually made removable for that particular purpose. And by putting trees in there, I'm not sure whether that's going to interfere with that agreement that we had with the board at the time, but was also supported by Christian Fellowship as to whether they need to be part of this decision process.
I think that's a good point, but what he said is that they're going to be closer to the top.
Yeah,
versus if they were at
that's
the
why I
bottom.
asked that question. If they were going to be
Good.
down in front, then there would be more of an issue than if they were up on
Well, if
top.
they were
And,
down,
and the fellowship hasn't used that for over 4 years.
but it's not just the fellowship, it's the community.
It's
So
the
it might
idea
be
that
turned
it
into
was
an
an
amphitheater
amphitheater.
for the community.
It's way at the top.
I know, it's at
Yeah,
the top.
it was the idea that it was an amphitheater, but the Christian Fellowship was more concerned about
Yes.
being able to use it.
Okay, we have one more question, then we'll call for the question.
Brian Souders, lot 38. Are these trees on the approved list of the DRC? The reason I'm asking is if someone sees these beautiful trees and wants to put one on their lot, are they approved trees on the DRC list?
The answer is no. From what I understand, am I correct? Because of the size. We have many things that are on the approved list for the lots, but we have planted other things in the common areas, particularly a few years back when we did the capital improvement, the landscaping issue. There are things in our common areas that are not on the approved list. It's because the approved list is for the lots.
Okay.
See none, one more please, and then we'll move on.
Have you guys thought about using ficus instead of the pistachio tree is a beautiful tree. And as most of you know, I was a landscaper, but the ficus is faster growing and it does not drop leaves. So it's an evergreen. So it would be a much, and it's fast growing. So it would give you shade faster and it doesn't take that much water. So that might be something.
Does it have the same canopy that this would though?
Yes, yes, they're very
Okay.
beautiful.
All right.
The ficus tree is very beautiful.
So let's move on to the motion. The motion is to approve the request from the Pet Club to plant 3 red push pistachio trees on the interior of the pet park. And these trees will be purchased by the Pet Club. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes. There's a second motion. Ron, would you do the second motion, please?
I move to approve the request from the Pet Club for the association to purchase and plant 2 additional trees on the exterior of the pet park.
I'll second that. Any comments, questions from the board on this?
The last one was for the dogs. This is one for the people.
End of discussion. What is currently there? Aren't there some trees there? I used to have a dog that was very birdy and saw a lot of birds around there. So,
There are no trees on the west side of the park, and that's where these would be put, is on the west side. There are some on the north side, but those don't give you any protection from the sun except in late summer. And yes, Mike?
I think we've also lost a tree or 2 over on that west side over the years. We do have irrigation to that location on the west side of the pet park.
okay, all right. So this in essence is a replacement. Was never there before.
Yes, a replacement of a tree that would be a little bit different spectrum of what we have existing.
Do you have any issues with any impact this would have on your landscaping staff?
I don't believe so.
Any other questions, comments from the board? It'd be 2, so it'd be a cost of $270 to the community. Any questions, comments from the residents? Okay, so do we have an idea of where the funds would come to pay for this? I'm sorry, I'm not seeing the question. Okay, yes, go ahead. Thank you, Brent.
Talk. Vicky, lot 54. A lot of those trees that are up there actually need to be taken out. They're in very poor shape. They're not very pretty. And I think that we should look into in the future to replacing most of those trees along the pet park, whether the board does it or whether the pet club has a fundraiser to replace them and beautify it.
Thank you. Good comment. So the funding for this would just come out of operations, or we've got some money and some landscaping that'll
Right.
do that? Okay, great. Call for the motion then. I'll try to be consistent then in that, since it's a dollar amount, we'll do a roll call. So the motion is to approve the request for the association to purchase and plant 2 additional trees on the exterior of the pet park to the cost of $270. So
Ron Woodward,
Yes.
Becca Paulson,
Yes.
Marie Beschen,
Yes.
Marilyn Sorensen,
Yes.
Steve Deal,
Yes.
Roberta Ernest,
Yes.
and Barbara Fugelberg.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next thing on the agenda is regarding the fitness center. And again, we still have the 3 different things that we had last time.
I make a motion to approve, repair the equipment in the fitness center.
So the motion is to approve the repair of the equipment in the fitness center.
Second.
All right. Correct. He said repair only. So Mike, do you want to give us some back? And we also had the issue of leasing. So could you give us the information that you have?
So since our prior board meeting, we've had a discussion of what the best opportunity we were going to have and options we're going to have for this fitness equipment. We kind of went round and around and seeing what our options are. We did look into leasing equipment. Looking at the numbers, it's pretty astronomical, as we can imagine, for leasing this equipment. It doesn't really make sense for us. I don't think so personally. However, we have talked with a lot of different vendors when it comes down to this equipment. For what I've learned is we have pretty medium grade equipment in that fitness center, and it really is the best equipment that we can have for the amount of usage we use. If we go to much smaller machines, then we may have more of a maintenance concern. More frequently, as it being used more than 6 hours a day. You see some of the smaller equipment being used in smaller hotels, things like that, where they're getting only 3 to 6 hours a day usage versus, more long-term usage here in the resort. So what we found is that it may be best to repair this equipment that we have outstanding and then evaluate moving forward what we look to do in the fitness center. If we're going to keep all the machines or replace all of the machines at some point in time, and a good definitive plan of replacement for those machines in that location. The vendor that we use to maintain this equipment feels strongly that what needs to be replaced is very minimal items that are regular replacements. We're talking drive belts for the treadmills, and we're talking motors for the treadmills. It's very basic for those equipment to go out, and he feels strongly that we could definitely get more usage out of the equipment we currently have.
So then the dollar amount that we're talking about is that one estimate on page 53 of our manual. That is $1,236.21.
That is incorrect. We're looking at a total of $1,236.21 for the bike, and looking for the treadmills, a total of $5,121.03.
And that's the 3 treadmills. Or
That is correct. 3
Okay.
treadmills, 1 bike.
So it's all repairing. Okay. So the total then comes to 6,000 or 7,000. Over $7,000 to repair. Okay. Any questions, comments from any member of the board?
Yes, Madam President. I would suggest that we repair the treadmills and that we hold off on the stationary bike, that Star Trek bike, the second one in. Even if it's repaired at $1,236, I don't see people using it because it's not very intuitive. As it may be a high-end bike, but we don't have high-end riders. And when you get on those things and you can't figure them out, then you wait for another bike to open up. We haven't really fully decided whether we need more space there or not. And until this utilization study is done and we've decided what we're going to do space-wise, I'd say just pull that Star Trek bike out of there and give us a little bit more room on the 3 bikes that are there. Fix the treadmills at a cost of what?
5,000-ish.
$3,580 to fix the treadmills.
No, 5,121.
5,121. Fix the treadmills and hold off on doing anything on another bike until later on.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Michael?
The only thing I wanted to add, Ron, is that I believe that the Trek bike that you're referring to is not the bike that's in need of repair. The true RCS 800 is the bike that's in need of repair.
Then we need to repair that bike.
Okay, thank
We
you.
need to repair that bike.
Total is $6,357.24.
Thank you. Any questions? Brian Sounders, do you have any comment on this? So Brian and I have spoken. Brian was a member, I think he's a pretty active user of the exercise unit. And he was an active member of an older committee that used to exist. And so Darlene and Mike are going to get sort of in contact with that committee of residents who used to participate in knowing what's what and making recommendations of it. So you'll be actively involved in helping us move forward as to the proper amount of equipment that would be there. Any other questions, comments from the board? Marla, excuse me, from the residents?
Marla Festinice, lot 2323. My concern is, I've been in there and I've actually used all the bikes. And I went over and I fixed the Star Trek one. It was in Chinese, just moved it over to the American flag one and it works. And I posted it on some of our Facebook things, and a lot of people said they really like that bike because it actually has a fan that blows on you while you're riding it. And the other 3 bikes, I don't know what we have to actually fix because they were all being used that day. The only thing I saw was one treadmill that was not working, but I've never seen more than one person on the treadmills, and I could be wrong. I know we have some other equipment in there that I don't think has been used at all, but yet we have some really good stuff. So that's my concern.
Thank you, Marlon. I think regarding the treadmills, we know that there's that one that's unplugged and says out of order. What Mike Nice has told us, though, that the person from the equipment repair place maintenance has said that those others do need to be repaired, that there are parts of them that they're not working as properly as they should. Any other questions, comments from the residents? We've got Jackie and then we'll have Will.
Jackie Adamson, lot 528. Do you have a comparative amount for buying a new one? $2,100 plus for a new bike, for repairing a bike? Sounds expensive, but we also have to remember this is probably a higher commercial grade than what I would put in my own home.
Well, there is also part of that $325 of labor. So a lot of these costs involve labor and shipping.
The replacement cost is $2,750 for the bike.
And it's $1,236 to repair it.
Correct.
Treadmill.
Treadmill. Okay.
I'm sorry, if I said bike, I am totally wrong. I meant treadmills.
Treadmill, you're looking $5,775 for one treadmill.
Thank you.
Then we had Will up front.
Good afternoon. Will McNamee, lot 1674. First off, I agree with this. You should get it repaired. But one other thing I'd like to have you look at is the air circulation system in that room. It definitely needs to be worked on.
Thank you, Will. And lighting looks a little sketchy in there, but that's just my opinion. Okay, I'll call for the motion. Again, dollar amount. The motion on the table is to repair, I'm sorry, I'm trying to scroll for the motion. Repair the equipment in the fitness center. That'd be the 3 treadmills and the 1 stationary bike to the total of just a little over $6,000. Again, dollar amount, roll call, please.
Ron Woodward,
Yes.
Becca Paulson,
Yes.
Marie Beschen, Marilyn Sorensen,
Yes.
Steve Deal,
Yes.
Roberta Ernest,
Yes.
and Barbara Fugelberg.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody's work on that. Sort of the good news from this is just again, relooking at that amenity and trying to get further clarification on what it needs to be for the future, how to move forward. The next thing on the agenda under new business is the approval of an auditor's report. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve the independent auditor's report prepared by Ginsberg and whatever that other name is, CPAs LLP.
I second it.
So one of the things is that the board does have annual audit reports done by a CPA firm, Ginsberg and the Wallaby or whatever their name is, CPAs. And it is something that really the board does need to bring to the community for approval. And it's something that we really have forgotten to do over the years. So this is just a matter of approving the one that was just done this last summer. And our intent is that we would bring it to the board every year after this. So Becca, you're the expert in interpreting the reports, the audit reports. Is there anything on this report that stands out to you or that we would need to address?
Not especially. It looks like they went through everything. There were no major omissions, errors, miscalculations, or anything that the auditors find, so I would recommend approval.
Any comments, questions from any member of the board? Any comments, questions from any resident? Motion on the table is to approve the independent auditor's report prepared by Ginsberg and the Wallaby CPAs. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next thing on the board agenda is to approve the new employee structure. Just as a background, let's get a motion first, then discussion.
I move that we approve the home code new employee structure.
And and seconded. Last February, I believe, Stacy Mull from the Homeco Corporation came and brought to us a suggested organizational structure, of which there would be a general manager and an operations manager, and that there were things underneath that. So what we've asked Darlene and Mike, now with their new roles and those new titles, to look at the items that fell underneath those things in the prior structure and try to make it current. And so what they're going to do is they've presented it to the board, and you have it available to present to us now. Would you like guys to sort of walk through that?
Okay, you can skip to the next page. So the first page is, or the second page here is organizational structure. As you can see, if you, from the top, all areas report to the board of directors. Then you see Jamie Nelson, who is our HomeCo representative, and she is here today. I, as general manager, report directly to Jamie. And Mike, and I'm the general manager, Mike, as operations manager, reports directly to me. And then if you see underneath, as you see, it's kind of like the little square of the different departments. The DRC, compliance, landscape supervisor, housekeeping supervisor, and the maintenance supervisor will all be reporting to Mike, directly to Mike. And then under myself would be the accountant, the administration staff, activities coordinator, the chuck wagon, patrol supervisor, and that would be reporting to me. And then all the different committees would be supported. The budget committee, the election committee, the communication committee, and the patrol safety committee would be reporting to myself. And the golf course committee, the DRC committee, the BGM committee, and the landscape committee would be reporting to Mike. And it's set up it's organized this way because Mike is the operations manager / facilities maintenance, doing facilities maintenance. I will be handling all the administrative type tasks. You want to go on to the next page? So on the next page, it's who to contact. And it kind of breaks down. I'm not going to go through all these because we're going to post these on the neighbor network. But it kind of breaks down if you have questions about particular areas, who you contact, who you would reach out to. We've also broken that down. Go to the next page on who to contact for Brad, for DRC, and then we have Amy Maxfield, who's in compliance, and then Don, who is our accountant. So any questions under their categories, you would reach out to them. And that's pretty much the gist of this entire structure. We did this, and we will be we'll be posting this on Neighbor Network, but we did this so that it made more sense on who you needed to contact for different things going on in the community. Because right now, everyone doesn't know who they should reach out to, so they're kind of just reaching out to anybody. Now, that does not mean if you can't get a hold of Mike that you can't contact me. This just kind of gives us an idea of who you need to talk to if you have different questions. But please feel free to reach out to any of our staff.
Thank you, Darlene. We appreciate the work that you guys have all done on this. Any questions or comments from any member of the board? Yes. Any questions from the members of the community? So as she said, this will be posted on Neighbor Network so that everybody can see, and hopefully it'll improve communications and knowing who to call for what. So all in favor, the motion on the table, scoot back here, is to approve the HomeCo new employee structure. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. The last thing on the agenda as far as actions that need to be taken has in regards to the umbrella insurance policy. Someone make a motion to that effect?
I move to approve the umbrella insurance policy.
I'll second that. You know, last month, I'm sorry, I had a little senior moment there. Last month, we approved the contract was up for our insurance product, and we had every piece of information except for the amount that they would be charging us for our premium regarding the umbrella portion of it. And Darlene reached out to them to get that. So Darlene, can you give us some information on that and what our actual costs would be for this?
Sorry, hold on just a moment. So I reached out to LeBar Oxney, who is our broker for our insurance needs. And again, like Barbara said, last month they approved all but the umbrella policy. And she needed additional information before she could give us some quotes for that, the umbrella policy. She came back with two different quotes. One was for a $2 million policy, and one was for a $5 million policy that she offered. My question to her was what we had last year, because I wasn't here, and she had said that we had a $10 million policy. They no longer offer $10 million policies that with the companies that they've been working with. Apparently they're having a lot of issues with different companies offering umbrella coverage. And this was what she was able to come up with, was $2 million and $5 million.
So what would our actual premium be for that portion of it?
So the premium for the $2 million would be $5,400. And the premium for the $5 million would be $17,000. It's a big difference.
Part of the rationale that they gave you was that they'd had so many claims for COVID, and there's been, that little thing in Florida that happened, but a lot of COVID. And I wanted to push back because our state legislature, well, the governor here did put in the law that it would make it really difficult for anyone to file a claim in an organization claiming that they got COVID, as long as that organization was doing everything they could to help prevent it, which I believe that we have. So we've got that, in my mind, protection. It doesn't mean someone could still try, but at least there is a law in place that would minimize the ability for them to do that. So really the question is, do we want to spend the $5,400 or the $17,000? So questions, comments from the board?
$17,000, I don't care what their rationale comes up with, is absolutely absurd. And while we need that umbrella, I guess we better go with the one we can afford to pay for and hope we don't have to use it.
When's the last time that we actually had a claim, do you recall, that we had to go after the umbrella, use the umbrella portion of it? I don't recall that we've had one. So, questions, comments from any members of the board?
What did we pay in the past for our umbrella? Do you know?
The $10 million umbrella policy we had last year, we paid $9,289 for.
2,5,400. I will amend, I will add to this motion to approve the $2 million at the premium of $5,400. Will I get a second on that?
I'll second that.
Do we need any discussion on that?
I think that's absolutely the right move because as Steve has pointed out to me, we could buy 3 of these $2 million umbrellas for $16,200, which is cheaper than the $5 million one. So, yeah, I'm with going with the $2 million.
Especially since we haven't had any incursion on. Questions, comments from the residents? Oh, we got a couple. Okay. Yeah. We're in the wrong business, huh?
Just for my information, Marilyn Klein, what does the umbrella cover? Is it accidents or, you talked about COVID? That's a illness.
In my experience, umbrella, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not an expert on this, but it's things that may have happened a while back that now they're trying to get covered. Is that any close to being true?
I think generally speaking, yes, from what I understand of it.
Okay.
Barbara?
Yes.
The umbrella simply kicks in after a suit that requires more money
That's what
than
I
the
thought.
current policy pays. That's basically what it is.
Okay. All right. So call for the question. The motion on the table is to approve the umbrella insurance policy at the $2 million coverage for the premium of $5,400. Roll call vote, please, since it's money. That's you.
Yes.
Becca Paulson,
Yes.
Marie Beschen,
Yes.
Marilyn Sorensen,
Yes.
Steve Deal,
Yes.
Roberta Ernest,
Yes.
and Barbara Kugelberg.
Yes.
Thank you.
The last, two last things are the board of directors and management announcements. For the board, I will be, I want to thank everyone who is currently in process of participating in the focus groups of the long-range planning process that we've got going on. Wendy Holtzman is meeting with about 70 of our residents have signed up for that. I think we still have some ongoing. In addition, then she'll be meeting with our management team and a couple of the committees and a couple of the departments. So thank you for that. We don't have a date yet for phase 3. And phase 3 was the actual work groups that will be coming up. And she'll be in communication with us when she has all of those focus groups finished, assuming that they'll be in early February. Then the last thing I'll just announce is that after management has given their announcement, we will be breaking into executive session. The purpose of our executive session, closed session, is consistent with Arizona Statute 33-1804. We'll be meeting regarding legal issues. We'll be meeting regarding appeals and fines, some financial information of residents, and personal information regarding a member and contemplated litigation. So can I turn it over to you, Darlene?
Sure, thank you. Sorry, I received a petition to recall one of the current board members in my office on Monday, January 9th. As a result, we're legally obligated to call a special meeting of the association with 30 days of receipt of that petition for the sole purpose of voting on the removal of board director Roberta Ernest. Both the board and the individuals advocating for removal must adhere to both our governing documents and to Arizona statutes to ensure all legal steps are followed. So it's important for residents to know the timing of this petition creates a situation that will require at least 2 separate mailings that will occur fairly close together. The letter announcing the special meeting in the association will include the date and time of the meeting, the agenda, and the ballot to recall. Not the agenda. Will include the date and time of the meeting and the ballot to recall or retain Roberta Ernest from the board. The second letter will publicize the annual meeting. on February 21st, and will include the ballot and bios of the 7 candidates running for the regular election of board of directors. So to reiterate, there will be 2 separate and distinct mailings within 2 separate and distinct purposes, In closing, all of the board members acknowledge the seriousness of a recall election. We can support the residents and board members by remaining neutral. We must not appear to influence the election. I just want to reiterate, you're going to be receiving 2 separate ballots. The ballot that you receive for the recall on the return envelope will say recall ballot. If you're going to vote on both the annual meeting and the recall, you need to make sure you fill out both of those ballots. Okay? One other thing I just want to announce, again, I announced it at the town hall, but I'll announce it here at the meeting today. Our office hours are now Monday through Saturday from 7:30 to 3:30. We do have a notary on site. Her office, or she's here Tuesday through Saturday. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I'd like to ask, why is she being recalled? Is there, I mean, I'm not on Facebook, any of the media, so I'm kind of in the dark. But I do have that question. What did she do wrong?
That will be discussed at the special meeting of the association.
Yeah, but that doesn't help with the vote because the ballots will already be out.
That information will be included in the, could you describe what was listed on the recall? We know that any potential recall is a really difficult time within the community. Residents can recall for the fact that we're not following our judiciary responsibilities, but they also can recall for no cause at all. They just don't like the color of someone's hair, what they were.
I think we can add what the petition stated. What the petition stated is recalling board member Roberta Ernest for not following the board of directors code of conduct.
Excuse me, what was the last part for not following what?
Not following the board of directors code of conduct.
COVID policy?
Code of conduct.
Oh, code of conduct.
Right. So again, that'll be discussed. All of those communication will be coming in a letter, and also it'll be discussed at the special meeting of the association. Okay. So there's no comment now. It's not on our agenda. Pardon me?
You'll be getting.
Yeah. We have to have it 30 days
You'll be
from.
getting the notice within the next day or 2.
Yeah.
Of when it will be. Yeah, it will go out in a blast, and then you'll also it will state on, when you get your ballot, it will say when it's going to be held also. So.
We have 30 days from when we receive the petition to call the meeting. At the meeting. The meeting has not been scheduled. Darlene just got the petition on Monday, the 9th, and we have 30 days to get that meeting done. So Darlene has not scheduled the date of that meeting, so it must occur by February 8th.
Is the vote before or after the meeting?
Before.
No, the vote, the answer is yes. So let me explain that people will be given an opportunity to vote at the meeting if they are there in person. People attending the meeting virtually will not be given an opportunity to vote. People can also vote by absentee ballot, which will be coming in the letter. So they can receive, you can vote prior to the meeting, or you can vote the day of the meeting, at the meeting. And the ballots will be counted at the meeting, and we'll know the results then.
So we're to believe that people signed a petition without any being told why
they're signing the petition. Surely someone's here who was told or is involved in the petition can tell us why this code of conduct was supposedly broken. And when the ballot goes out, if I understand it correctly, there will be no explanation with the ballot saying why they should vote one way or the other, yes or no, that she should be recalled. So
I'm gonna ask
somebody could
I'm
tell
gonna
us,
ask
surely
our-
somebody's here who could tell us
I'll ask-
why there's being a recall.
I'll ask
It
our-
Costing the association thousands of dollars with manpower and materials to get this done.
I'll ask our home co-representative, Jamie, to give us some information.
So Barb and the rest of the board, I just whispered to Mike and Darlene, based on the comments that we're hearing, I really feel that the residents should be given the opportunity for a town hall prior to the ballots being returned. Both sides, the ones that turned in the petition, have the ability to speak if they choose, and Roberta has the ability to speak if she chooses. If one chooses not to and the other does, then you've given both the opportunity, but I think that the residents deserve a chance to vote before they vote. I feel that they need a chance to ask questions.
Perfect. We'll schedule that. And that would be separate from the actual formal special meeting that we're required by law to have.
Yeah, so we'll try and get that scheduled one day next week because we are on a time constraint. And in the meantime, we'll be getting the date for when the meeting's going to be held, and we'll be getting the ballots out.
Okay. One last question, please.
We're going to shoot for next week, yes. They can rename.
Ron Wisdom, 379.
Yes.
Mostly I'm curious, is Ms. Roberta going to be able to defend herself on
Yes.
the accusations?
Yes.
Okay, because at the town meeting or what we're talking about, where we can find out what the accusations are.
Correct. Yes. The answer is yes.
Great, thank you.
With that, I'd like a motion to adjourn. And a second? All in favor? We're out of here. Thank you very much.